Here we are, AP Statistics in Chapter 10. We are so close to the end. For this video, I've got everything already typed up. I'm just going to quickly guide you through some things. The focus of Chapter 10 is to actually compare two different measurements. So to compare two different variables, two different things to see if there actually is a difference if I do experiment A versus experiment B, or if I change some kind of parameter or something in my experiment to see if there is a difference between two things. And we'll look at some examples of that in just a moment. In 10.1, we're going to be focusing on proportions. It says that two proportions. In 10.2, then we'll move on to means. The way that this is set up over here on the left, we're going to look at what a confidence interval will look like. Over here on the right, we've got this tests for significance. So right here, we still have that. We want to estimate, but this time we want to look at the difference between our results, our subtraction. So the true difference of proportions in context of at the whatever confidence level. So usually 95%, but sometimes some other things. You want to be sure you define both parameters here. So make sure you specifically say what P1 and what P2 are. Same thing over here with your hypothesis test. Now, I do prefer this way because we do in confidence intervals, we do subtraction. It just makes sense to do subtraction in your hypothesis test. So we'd be comparing how far away are those things from zero. And if their difference is large enough from zero, then we can say that there's statistical significance. But you will also see it written this way on the AP exam, especially in multiple choice. It could be written either way, but this one, it's pretty much the same thing. If I added P2 over here, I would have, and then if I added P2 to the other side, you can see that I'd have the same statements. You just need to be familiar with both, but you're going to see me writing them this way when we do our significance tests. Conditions have not changed, still random, but you have to check both P1 and P2. Both samples have to be independent. I don't know why it says it there because it's right here. Okay, 10% rule. Oh, independent of each other. That's right, because one cannot affect the other. Both successes and both failures must be at least 10. So notice you got to check both of them, P1 and P2. And then you say the conditions are met for two proportion Z interval or two proportion Z test. These formulas are on your formula sheet, although you will not need to be doing them by hand. We're going to do most of this on your calculator. This is a lot to do. The one key thing is we've got something called pooled, and we will look at that once we get to the calculator portion. And finally, our conclusion, we are blank percent confident that the interval from blank to blank captures the true difference in the proportions. So we're looking for that difference. If we're doing a t-test, since the p-value is so small, we of course reject, but if the p-value is large, we fail to reject based on whatever our alpha is. Next, looking at an example, this one is a confidence interval. So example 1, I'm going to let you read through most of it. Just I'll point out a few things. So it looks like we're comparing two things. So American 24. Let's see. Oh, we're comparing males versus females. So we've got two results. We want to see if these two proportions are far enough away that we conclude there is a difference between males and females. Okay. So 95% confidence. We'd like to estimate the difference. So P of F, so we're using that for females. Now notice we define it here. What is PF? What is PM? We want the difference of proportions of graduation rates. In the plan, we can assume both samples are representations of their populations. So we're assuming that. That's one way to say that you're assuming that there's some randomization going on there. And maybe because you could assume that because it's the US Department of Commerce. And it does say it's a large scale survey. Samples are independent of each other. So this is a new thing you have to add to the randomization part. Obviously, if, I'm not going to be changing too many things if, since I've got males and females just separated, one's not going to affect the other. The samples are quite large, but they still are less than 10% of the populations. Both samples are definitely large enough, but even though it's obvious they are large enough, you still have to show it. Sorry. All are greater than 10. Okay, so you can just put that. Since the conditions are met, we can find a 2 proportion Z interval. All right, now they're showing this on the do, but you actually don't have to. What you do need to do is show this. You need to show what Z star you're using. This is more for the free response. Once you get like maybe to here, just kind of set up some basics. There are some calculator steps we can do to get to here. So if this were actually an FRQ, you would not need to do this much. You do need to show this. You do need to show your Z star. I don't know that you do not need to actually show this standard error because, you need to be familiar with it. It is on your formula sheet. That's just a lot to show. You don't actually have to calculate all of that. So then we conclude 95% confident that the proportion of a 24-year-old women who have graduated from high school is higher, okay, is between 2.4% and 4% higher than the proportion of men of the same age who have graduated from high school. So does this provide strong evidence? Okay, so now this kind of gets into that confidence, or sorry, the testing. So does this provide strong evidence? Explain. Since the interval does not contain 0. So 0 means there's no change at all. There's no difference. There is strong evidence that the women are more likely than men to complete high school. When we move on to the next page, we're going to look at the hypothesis testing. So this is a new example. This time we are comparing, oh, this is sad. We're comparing 182 babies born to mothers who were exposed to soot and ash from September 11, and then another 4%, or sorry, another 2,300 babies who were not born near the site. We want to see if those did affect the baby's birth weight. Okay, so our null hypothesis. Now notice, so we're defining that here. I don't know why they've defined that there. The null hypothesis is the proportion of low birth weight is the same. I don't know why they've written it in words. You do not need to do this part. I think it's more for your benefit that they've written it in words so you can see what this actually means. So we've got P exposed, P not exposed. The difference is 0. So there's no big difference here. Now, of course, we're going to get a difference. Is it big enough? Is it statistically big enough? Here, we're going to say that those exposed minus those that are not exposed, that difference is greater than 0. Wait a minute, wouldn't that be less than 0? I did not write this one, so I'm just double checking here. If I read my own thing, I would understand. The proportion of low birth rate is higher. So we're looking at the proportion, not their weight. Sorry, this isn't a means problem. So the proportion of low birth rate is higher. That makes sense now than this one. Okay. So yes, that difference would be greater than 0, or that those exposed would be greater. For some reason, I was thinking about a means that the actual birth rates. Okay, so true proportion. So then this is the one thing that students forget to do. It is so important that you do this when you do one of these problems. You've got to define what each proportion means. Next, quickly checking conditions. Nothing's really changed from before. Random, both, talk about both. The samples would be independent because you're not going to have the same women in both groups. 182 and 2,300 are both less than 10% of all women. Let's see. So then we've got our success failure. Everything is greater than 10, so we're good. And then we conclude conditions are met for a two-proportion z-test. The one thing that both of these are missing, and this would be the one thing that would allow you to go straight to a calculator, and that would be the curve. The curve just solves so many things and would allow you just to do your calculator work on here. So we found that the difference between these two is 0.04. So that is what we're actually going to be comparing against. And then right here, this is what you would do in the calculator. And we're going to do this work in class. So you would take this number. So I don't know why they've written it. Okay, well, I guess it does make sense. So the probability that the difference is greater than or equal to 0.4. So greater than or equal to would be up here. So we're trying to find the area of this. Okay, so our number, and I'm not seeing what our actual number was anywhere, but we did find that that area is 0.005. It's super, super small. I apologize. I do see my point. Let's see, it's 0.043. Okay, so it feels like, hey, that doesn't look that far away from 0.04, but because our sample size was so large, it did end up being a very, very small area. Once again, just let me stress, if you show this curve, and this just really solves some problems so that you can actually use the calculator and not have to do all of this things, because you can actually write these numbers down from the calculator and not show the entire equation. I will definitely show you all of that in class. And we're going to conclude, since the p-value is so small, we're going to reject that null hypothesis, that HO. There is definitely sufficient evidence to suggest that the proportion of low birth weight babies is higher in the women exposed to soot and ash after the World Trade Center attacks. And that's really sad.